Hey guys, this is Will Terry, and I'm going to be talking to you today about how to separate your story into different pages to make a children's book, and that is also known as pagination. I didn't make the video title pagination because no one would click on it because no one would know what that even is. But yeah, separating out the story into different pages and deciding what words are going to go on each page is called pagination or pagination. And so I'm going to talk about how I do that, how I did that for the book that I'm working on right now, and things to watch for, some tips and tricks and stuff like that. And so let's get into it. And this image right here that you're seeing currently on the screen is it's actually, some people had asked me what this image was from. It's actually from my painting, color, and light class at svslearn.com. And you can, that's like my online illustration school for children's book illustrators. If you want to check that out, click the links below, and it's svslearn.com. So there you go. It's a monthly subscription. So I'm going to jump in here and just kind of start out with, I've got my story written at this point. I'm not showing it, and I'm not showing the title because I've had some plagiarism problems in the past, and so until I get close to the release date, I'm going to be kind of holding things. But I'm going to show you some more artwork from the book and some decisions that I made on how to put what words on what pages, and you'll see I will show some of the words and stuff. So anyway, the first image here this is actually a template that I made in Procreate. So I work on the iPad, and that's how I do all my sketches. And then I work in Procreate, the program Procreate, mostly because I found it early on. It's been such a great program, and there really hasn't been any reason for me to switch to anything else. I love the tools, and that's kind of where I tell a lot of people to go when they start illustrating, if they want to work on the iPad. It's great for drawing. I do all my drawings there. I do all my coloring in Photoshop. And the reason for that is I don't feel like I can control the color on the iPad as well as I can on my Cintiq monitor and in Photoshop. So I'm still in between worlds. But it allows me to take my iPad anywhere. It could be in the doctor's office, it can be on vacation, it can be at my in-laws. I can be anywhere and working on my book in an easy chair in the living room. And then I bring them all back and color them in Photoshop. So most picture books are standard 32 pages, okay? And the reason for that is, I'm just going to go through this really quick. I'm going to tell you really quickly that we do also have a Children's Book Pro class, and that class is the most complete, comprehensive children's book illustration class in the world. You can also find it by going to svslearn.com, and that is a premium class, and that is a flagship class for people who really want to get into children's books. So I've taken this piece of paper here, just 8.5 by 11, folded in half. In publishing, this is called a signature, okay? So one piece of paper folded and then stuck into a book, right? That's one signature. They can't add like one page or one numeric page. So this is basically, if you numbered it 1, that would be one page on one side. In the middle, 2, 3, and there's the 4th page on the other side, right? So there's 4 pages in one piece of paper. So you can only make a book in multiples of 4, because if you add a piece of paper, you're adding 4 pages. So it's important to know that when you're starting to make a book, right? And most children's books are either like readers for children are like 24 pages, standard like Step Into Reading or Learning to Read books. The little tiny pamphlet type soft cover books are like 24. And so that's 6 sheets of paper, 6 times 4 is 24. And for most children's books, they're 32 pages, 8 pieces of paper, or 8 times 4, 32. And then there are quite a few children's books that are 40s. And so like, I don't have it handy right now, but Bonaparte Falls Apart is a 40. And that was one of the books that I did for Penguin Random House. And so anyway, So you have to know that you're trying to illustrate for 32 pages. But if you're looking on this diagram that I have on the screen, or this template, what I did was I just made a bunch of boxes. I knew that I wanted to make my book 8.5 by 11 tall. Okay, so I just knew that going in. And there's reasons for that I don't want to get into on this video. I want to keep this video relatively short. But basically, I decided on an 8.5 by 11, and I actually switched that to 8 by 10. I felt like it was a little more friendly style for a children's book. After looking at a lot of other books, I went with an 8 by 10. It also, one of the reasons for making that choice is that it will fit really well for the templates that Amazon has for their Kindle Direct Publishing program. So I wanted the artwork and basically all of my art files, my text and everything, to then be able to transfer over to an Amazon book. So there was some thought in that going in ahead of time, knowing that I was going to do both a hardcover book on my own, printed in China, and also a Kindle version for the Kindle, and also a direct print-on-demand book on Amazon. So looking at this, what I do is I number the pages, and you could start anywhere. I just kind of started, right here, and that's page number 1, and then you go 2, 3. So you have to, page 1 has to be out floating all by itself when you open the book, because you're going to have a signature in there, right? So it has to be there. So now you have page 1, and then you're going to have 2, 3, and then this is going to be 4, 5, but you're going to have another piece of paper here. So 4, 5 would be 4, and then 5 over here, and so on and so forth, all the way up to the last page, which is page number 32. And so on page 32, that's the last page. There are end sheets as well. They're not counted in the 32 pages. They're extra. And one of your end sheets is going to be glued down to the inside cover on the front and the back. So you're going to have an inside glued down end sheet, a floating, and then that one floats, and then the other side of it. And some people have even a couple more end sheets. So it just depends. But that's something that you would definitely talk to your designer or printer, and they can tell you what is kind of standard with the way that they put a book together. So let's see. I got 8 pieces of paper. That's a signature. Probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you in paginating your manuscript is to look at other professionally published books. It's surprising when I tell students sometimes to go and look at how someone else did it. Sometimes they'll get the worst examples, and they'll copy bad examples. And I'm like, that's a dumb example. Why did you get that self-published book from someone who didn't even know what they were doing? Like, if you don't have children's books, really good ones, published from major publishers at your home, go to the library. If you don't want to go to the library, go buy some at a Barnes & Noble or your local bookstore, and actually have them in hand so you can dissect them and see the decisions that they're making in there. Okay, so some books, the first page is on page 4. It's spread 4, 5, and you'll as you make books, you'll just kind of memorize that spread 1 is 2, 3, spread 2 is 4, 5, and so on. And you basically have, think about it this way, 14 to 15 spreads to tell your story, because you've got page 1, which is kind of almost always used as a title page. And then you have page 2, 3, which is also often used for what they call end matter. And I'm going to show you my book, and I've blurred out the title, because again, I don't want to share the title yet for reasons I've already explained. So I have a bouncing pickleball coming in, and that's it. It's not really like storytelling. It's just like flavor for the book, and just kind of a fun little illustration that's going in there, this bouncing pickleball. And that's my page 1. This over here, this blank page over here doesn't exist actually. But for the template sake, you can see right here, I'm starting on page 1 just because I know that it's going to be part of a folded signature, page 1, and I'm just putting it there on this template, but it really won't have this piece of white over on this side, on this left side. And then page 2, 3, I've got, again, I blurred out my words because I don't know. Until I get closer to publication date, I'll let things go a little bit more. Let me get rid of this page here. And you can see I put it for my wife. This is kind of a dedication page. They call this page end matter or front matter. And it's basically like all the stuff, the copyright information, how the book was made, who designed it, who edited it, ISBN information if you want to have your website on there, things like that. Again, look at other books and see what big publishers are putting in there. And you can just copy their format and just kind of fill out what you want to put in there. It's up to you what you want to put on that page. So 2, 3 for me isn't really getting into the story yet. However, I did use it for the establishing shot, which I think I talked about in video 1 or 2 of this series. This is video number 6. And the reason that I did that was, why waste that page? Some people just only have the front matter and the dedication and nothing else. And I think it's kind of a wasted space if you don't use it a little bit. And I like to use it as an establishing shot to get the story started, even though the story hasn't really started. And so the main thing that I want to tell you and convey to you is, in paginating your book, is to stay as loose as you possibly can. I'm going to zoom out here. With your illustration ideas, until you are sure what words are going to go on what page. And don't start illustrating until you are sure what words are going to go on each page. So the way that I keep it loose is, this is literally a page out on my iPad. So it's small, right? It's actually smaller than this, where I'm showing it here, because it's on an iPad screen. I cannot get into it, and I can't get into details. It's too small. And that's the whole point of doing this template and these little thumbnails like this, is I don't want to take a chance on putting value down in an illustration that might change. And if like, let's say I decide that I'm going to make, I put some certain words on a page and I'm going to make it into a spread. And then I go through it later on, and I'm kind of going through the whole pace of the book, and I realize, that spread needs to be, it would actually be better storytelling to separate it into 2 separate illustrations, because there's 2 complex ideas and I'm leaving it too general to do 1 illustration over 2 pages. The thing that's going to mess you up more than anything else is if you commit too soon to a pagination that isn't working. So stay loose. I draw these cryptic, you can't even tell what these illustrations are. I can, because they're in my head. And because I wrote the story, I kind of know what I'm going to be illustrating here. And now it can change. These are so stick figure that there's no value there, and I can easily, as I move text around, I can change, I can switch back and forth, and I can just kind of make it work, and make alterations, and it's going to be super easy at this stage. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, well, if I start on 4 or 5, I really have 14 spreads. If you count them, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 13, 14 to 30, 31, from 4, 5 to 30, 31. I have 14 spreads where you open the book to tell my story, roughly. Plus the last page, which is usually a wrap up, or, in writing they call it a denouement. The resolution of the book, and it's usually a peaceful scene. Usually, you've ended on a high note and on the spread before, and it's kind of like, the walking into the sunset kind of a scene. So yeah, you have 14 spreads, and each one of those spreads should be its own little tiny story, right? Its own little different set of ideas. And that might mean that on some pages you have more words than on others. On some pages you might have fewer words, because you're trying to tell kind of a little mini story on each spread. And another thing that kind of complicates this pagination idea is that your page turns need to not be breaking up the middle of that idea, they need to break the next idea or a big reveal or an emotional change on the next book. So you're writing along the story and it's like, this was really bad for the character. That ends on the right side page, right? It could be a spread. It could be multiple illustrations. Something happened. That was really bad. Page turn. No, actually it was good because new idea, da 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 da. So you have to really get into your mind that the page turns matter, and as you're putting words on a page, you really want to make sure that you're taking into consider those page turns so that you're not awkwardly making your reader confused or wait for something, or you're not breaking up through the middle of an idea. The last thing that I want to talk about is the way that I start this process, because it's daunting. You've got your story written, and how do you break it down? How do you break down that body of text? For me, number one, I try to write as minimalistically as possible. I have a theory that kids do not like to sit on a parent's lap very long. And if you start reading too much, especially superfluous things that aren't even necessary, that could be reduced down, kids are going to slide off your lap. And so I like to write really minimalistically. But the biggest thing that I try to do when I start this process is I start with and work from the known to the unknown, which means I start from the beginning and at the end at the same time. So I know what the conclusion is. I go ahead and put that down on page 32. So right here on 32, you might see me make a little illustration because I know about what I'm going to illustrate, which could change. But then I put the words for that ending scene. Now I've already got a page done. I know it can't be anywhere else. That has to be on 32. I've got my 2-3, my establishing shot, right? And then I've got the story starts on 4-5. So in this book, here's my 4-5, and this is where the story starts. And the little character here, he gets a present, and it's a pickleball paddle, and then immediately he runs down to the courts to play. So I know that's going to happen. Getting that paddle, getting that gift, and then taking off is got to be on those first two. Now this could have been getting a paddle, could have been one spread, but as I work through the book, I'll also find that it doesn't fit. At some point, when I first went through, I had too many illustrations and too many spreads and not enough to break through. So I had to kind of just put both of these on the same page. And you'll see that as you kind of go through. And then I've got here another thing I want to show is I do have the words on this one. Paul loved playing pickleball so much he took his paddle everywhere. Well, I don't talk about him going to the doctor's office. I don't talk about him playing with the dog or going to sleep with his paddle. But I can tell all those stories in 3 different little vignettes. And that's so important. So you have so many options. As you're breaking down your text, you need to be thinking like a director in like what kinds of things you can show without words, what kinds of things you can combine, what things you can leave out. You don't have to illustrate everything. Let your viewer imagine a lot of what's happening in their mind, and you'll be more successful. So that's my advice on paginating your book. I hope that helps, and check me out through the process as I share this whole journey of making this picture book and selling it and trying to compete with my publishers on like how much money I can personally walk away with. I'll be sharing all those facts and figures throughout this series, and thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.